Johnny Talk Sports with the Week 11 college football predictions. Week 10, it was a really, really bad week. 5-5. That is not good. Only 50% accuracy. However, there have been 4 times this year, after a bad pick week, that I said I was going to respond the next week. And I was able to respond all 4 times. So for the 5th time this season, I'm going to respond this week in Week 11. Just got to accept that 5-5. Just accept that it happens. We're at the point in the year where any team can lose at any given moment. So we're going to respond here this week. We've got 10 more good games to pick this week. I'm not doing any bonus games this week because a lot of these matchups are just so good. We got some rivalry matchups. We got matchups that are going to impact the college football playoff race. It's just so much that's going to affect everything. So let's just get right to it. We're starting off with the Friday night game, and these rankings are based on the current Associated Press rankings. I know that the playoff rankings are going to be announced tomorrow, which we're going to be back on here tomorrow night to react to the second playoff rankings of the year. We're going to start with number 9 Washington versus Stanford. And for this game last year, this is the game last year that Washington really got their season going. Pulling off the upset against Stanford, they dominated Stanford, who looked like the better team on paper, but Washington just really came to play that night. It really got their season going. And I think Washington wins right here. Stanford coming off a loss to Washington State. Bryce Love got contained, less than 100 yards rushing. And Washington has a lot of talent from that playoff team last year, but it's not complete. I think Washington gets the W here, but I think this is gonna be that grinded out game that they gotta win. It's gonna be a game where they gotta just grind it out all 4 quarters, gotta win toward the end. I think Washington gets it done though. Number 13 Michigan State versus number 11 Ohio State. Now Ohio State is coming off a 55-24 thrashing against the Iowa Hawkeyes, and Michigan State coming off a huge upset victory against Penn State. And I like the Spartans here, although the question is, how is Ohio State going to respond after a 55-24 loss to the Hawkeyes? I think Ohio State will be able to respond a bit, but I still feel like Michigan State is going to be the better team on Saturday. Michigan State always seems to play Ohio State close. Last year, Michigan State was only a 3-win team last year. Michigan State did only lose to Ohio State 17-16. So the Spartans always play Ohio State close. In fact, 2 years ago, they pulled off the upset in the horseshoe that eliminated Ohio State's chance of making the college football playoff. And I think the Spartans get a win here. I think they continue their quest at a really magical season after an abysmal season last year. Number 12 Oklahoma State versus number 24 Iowa State. Oklahoma State's coming off a heartbreaking loss in Bedlam, and Iowa State's coming off a heartbreaking loss against West Virginia, which they were down 20-0 in that game, but they got it back to one possession, but they just couldn't get the go-ahead touchdown in the 4th quarter. And I think Oklahoma State responds here. I think they're going to respond from that loss in Bedlam. I think Mason Rudolph's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder. I think Mason Rudolph goes off for 350 passing yards in this game. Probably 4 touchdowns, too. I like Oklahoma State to win this actually by 14 points. So, give me the Cowboys in this matchup. Number 2, Georgia is number 10, Auburn. Now, Auburn, in my opinion, is the best 2-loss team in college football. Their 2 losses are to Clemson, and they are to LSU. Those are 2 good losses to have. I know LSU did lose to Troy, but I feel like that game was a fluke against Troy. I feel like LSU should have won that game, but they didn't, but it's oh well. So I still think Auburn's the best 2-loss team in college football. But I like the Bulldogs in this one. I just can't bet against these Bulldogs here, especially that nasty running game. Nick Chubb, Shoney Michel, and DeAndre Swift. I just can't bet against that 3 running back tandem. And also I can't bet against Jacob Fromm either. Best freshman quarterback in college football this year. So I'm going to take the Bulldogs in this matchup. Florida State versus number 4 Clemson. Now this is a rivalry matchup, so you can just throw all the stats, throw out all the numbers, throw out the wins and losses out the window. Because in rivalry games, anything can happen. And plus Florida State is going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder because They really have nothing to play for. They just got stuff to gain. But Clemson has everything to play for. Because Clemson's already used their mulligan loss. Because if they lose again, they will be eliminated from the college football playoff. And a Clemson loss right here, not only would it eliminate their playoff chance, but it could eliminate the ACC's playoff chance, depending on how Miami does the rest of the season. Like we talked in my playoff ranking video on Saturday night, that a lot of these teams, most of these teams in the top 10 really control their own destiny. The only team that I put in the top 10 that can't really control their own destiny is who I put at number 10. I'm not going to say it. If you want to know, you're going to have to watch it. But still, out of that top 10 that we put on that board right there, 9 of them control their own destiny. The one at 10, they need some help. But I think Clemson gets the win here. I think Clemson wins a very low-scoring game, though. I think Florida State's defense will be able to keep them in the game from start to finish. So I think Clemson gets I think they squeak by with a 23-17 win. Next, we got number 25 Iowa, who's welcome to the top 25 Iowa after that thrashing against Ohio State. On the road to number 6 Wisconsin. Now, this is the first real game that Wisconsin's playing this year. I did say weeks ago that the two biggest challenges that Wisconsin has are Michigan and Iowa, and they get them both at home. And Wisconsin is one of those teams that control their own destiny. I want to pick Iowa, but I just feel like with Wisconsin playing in Camp Randall, I think that's going to be an edge for them. I'm going with the Badgers in this one. I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout game. I think it's going to be that grinded-out win again. I think we're going to see a defensive battle in the first half of the game. Then I think the offense will show some sparks in the second half. But I still think it's going to be low scoring. I'm going to say the Badgers win 17-13. I'm going to say it's going to be that low scoring. That's a good football game for Big Ten football fans. Next, we got number 19 Washington State versus Utah. Now, I'm going with the Cougars here, although Washington State's been the most inconsistent team in the Pac-12 this year. 1 week they upset USC, 1 week they get smashed by California, 1 week they beat Stanford, and then another week they get smoked by Arizona. I'm going with the Cougars here because I just feel like Utah's just been gassed. It's just been a season breaker for Utah. That game against... one of their games during the season, I really can't recall where it was, and I do apologize for that. But Utah's always has to face a gauntlet every single year. There was 1 year where Utah did really good, 2015. Utah got all the way to the top 5 in the rankings. Then they ran into USC, a team that was much better than them physically and on paper. And that was the season breaker for Utah. And I feel like Utah had their season breaker a long time ago. And I think the Cougars get the win here. I'm going to say the Cougars win by at least 14. Though I think the Utes could keep it close for a bit, but I just can't bet against that Washington State offense. Number 1 Alabama versus number 18 Mississippi State. Now, this is the first time Jalen Hurts is going in Starksville for the Cowbells. It should be a huge distraction, but I still like the Tide in this one. This could either be a game where Alabama wins by 14, only 14, or they just it has to be that grinded out game they win by 1 possession. But Alabama's the most consistent team in college football right now, in my opinion. Georgia's pretty there in consistency, but I just feel like Alabama's the most consistent team that there is. I'm going with the Tide, but I'm not going to say it's going to be some blowout. I'm not going to say Alabama puts 60 on them. I'm not going to say they put 40 on them. I think it's going to be something pretty solid in the range of maybe 28 to 14 or 24 to 13, 24-17. I think it's going to be close most of the way. Now, the next 2 games, these final 2 games we got this week, the games of the week. Number 8 TCU versus number 5 Oklahoma. This is an elimination game for the college football playoff. Both these teams control their own destiny. This is going to ultimately decide the winner of this game should be a lock for the Big 12 title game, unless some disastrous happens for the last 3 weeks of the year. I don't want to really assume things. TCU has been really underrated all year long, really undervalued. Their defense has been really underrated. Might be the best defense in the Big 12, but I just can't bet against Baker Mayfield right now. I'm going with the Sooners, but I think it's going to be that grinded out kind of game. I just feel like I can't go against Baker Mayfield right now. Ever since that loss to Iowa State, he's responded. The stats are there. He had a big game in Bedlam last week. I think he's going to carry that over. Right now, it's his Heisman Trophy to lose right now because Saquon Barkley has lost 2 games now with Penn State. So I'm going with the Sooners in this one, but I think it's going to be a grinded out game too. Lots of these games, once we get to November, A lot of these games are grinded out games. You got to grind it out for the whole 60 minutes. I think the Sooners do that. I'm going to say it's not going to be as high scoring as we think. I'm going to say we're going to see something average. I'm going to say we're going to see 28-24, 28-27, one possession game. I think Baker Mayfield comes through in the clutch toward the end. And finally, the game of the week. Number 3 Notre Dame versus number 7 Miami, Florida. Now, this game can really go either way. I have had a hard time picking this game. In fact, I'm so undecided on, I didn't even mark it. I didn't even mark a winner yet. So this is actually the first time deciding on a winner. But I think this game can go either way. In fact, I'm not going to decide a winner until I say something, actually. Both of these teams have really brought college football by shockwaves. Brian Kelly for Notre Dame, the head coach for Notre Dame. He was on the hot seat in my preseason. And with Miami being ranked number 7. Shockingly undefeated. They may have had some close games, but last week they finally earned my respect. And their defense has been really underrated. Most underrated defense in the ACC. In fact, I think they have the second best defense in the SEC. Only behind Clemson. I feel like Florida State's defense is there, but I would put Miami as the second best defense in the ACC. I mean, Malik Rozier is underrated. I mean, he earned my respect last week. That whole Miami team did, because I've been criticizing Miami the last 4 weeks about how they've really just dodged bullets. I mean, the last 4 games before last week, all one-possession games. Florida State was a one-possession game. Georgia Tech, one-possession game. Syracuse, one-possession game. North Carolina, one-possession game. But they finally got that dominating win against Virginia Tech last week. They just dominated that game from start to finish. And right now, Notre Dame, they have the best. I think they're in the catbird seat right now for the college football playoff. If they win out, they're in. Because they got the best loss in college football right now, and that's in the playoff committee's eyes, the number 1 team in the country, Georgia, by 1 point. 1 or 2 things go differently in that game. We could be talking about the Irish being the number 1 team in the country. But finally, for my winner. Both these teams are great running backs. Josh Allen for Notre Dame. Travis Homer from Miami. He's really stepped up ever since the starter got injured. But here's what I think. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game. I think it's going to be all about defense. However, by a score of 20-14, I'm going with the U. I mean, the U has finally earned my respect. I think they're a legit team. They could really be a force to be reckoned with in the playoff rankings. If Miami wins out, they're in. Notre Dame wins out, they're in. In fact, all the teams in the top 10, except for Auburn, in these AP rankings, they win out, they're in. But we'll see what the committee does tomorrow night. Those are my picks this week. Share with your friends and family. Like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be back tomorrow night for the reaction video of the new college football playoff rankings. I will see you then. Have a good day, everyone.